Hi besties and welcome back to a new video. So today's video is going to be running through all the books that I want to read before the end of 2024. It's ambitious, but I feel we can do most of them. Fingers crossed. And this doesn't even include new releases, because going through the new releases that I'm excited for would just be a whole other video in itself. But we're going through the ones that are on my physical TBR that I want to read before the end of the year. So I actually made a 24 to read before 2024 list. I have made my way through that. I think I've read like 8 books or something so far off the list. So I have been making my way through. I have had this list in my mind quite consciously when thinking about the books that I want to read or what I'm putting on my monthly TBRs. I feel like I tackled it more towards the start of the year, less now in the middle, so I'm going to try and focus a little bit more on that throughout the rest of the year. But I am still very conscious that I've made that list, and I think all the books, I'm just looking at the stack, but pretty much all the books on that list are still relevant to ones that I do want to read this year and that are priorities for me to read this year, so it is still quite relevant. And then I have a hell of a lot of other books that I also want to read this year, so let's just dive straight in. I'm going to start with my list of 24 books that I want to read in 2024. We'll go through that and then we'll go through the other ones. I've kind of put them into different categories, some obviously overlap, but yeah, we'll just go from there. The angle may have changed slightly, it was like irritating me, the angle it was at. However, let's just start with the books that I have got on my 24 for 2024 list. I still have 14 left, so I've actually tackled 10, so that's quite good. But the first one is Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. So I think I am going to try and read this over the summer. It's currently like July, coming in towards the end of July, so I've still got like August to read it. I'm going on a holiday as well in August, so this is a potential for my holiday. I've heard good things about it. To be honest, I don't have the best history with Taylor Jenkins Reid. Like, I didn't like Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I found it quite predictable, to be honest. I know other people have found it like quite shocking, they didn't guess what was going on, but I found it quite predictable. So I'm unsure how this is going to go, but we'll see. Then I have Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez, and this is actually on my upcoming TBR. So if you do want to see booktubers and some of my besties too pick my TBR for August, then keep your eyes peeled, because that will be coming out very soon, towards the end of this month. So this is actually on there and you get to see who picks it. So I'm very excited about this. I've heard that there is great anxiety representation in this book, and as an anxiety girly, I am over the moon about that, because I'm intrigued to see how it is portrayed. The next one I have is Practice Makes Perfect by Sarah Adams. I think I've read all of Sarah Adams' other books, so I just need to read this one and then I am completed with her current list of books. And I loved When in Rome, and I have liked Sarah Adams' other books as well. I recently read The Rule Book and I actually really enjoyed that one. It was just perfect for what I needed at the time. But yeah, so I am really looking forward to this one. I don't know if this tops When in Rome. I haven't heard like reviews that say it does, but I have heard reviews that it's still very, very good, and it's still set in the same world as When in Rome, so I am happy to dive back in because that was adorable. Then we have Hook, Line and Sinker by Tessa Bailey. This is another contender for my upcoming holiday. I just kind of want nice summery reads, and I really liked It Happened One Summer when I read that last year, so this one is a high contender for my summer holiday reads. Haven't heard too many reviews on this, to be honest, but the cover just screams summer, and I really liked the glimpses of Fox and Hannah in the first book, so I'm looking forward to actually reading their story. The next book I have is Bunny. Again, I've heard mixed reviews on this one, to be honest. People have said it's like a fever dream reading it, but it does scream autumn time, so I am saving it for autumn. I do want to read it this year, but I just feel like summer's probably not the time to read it. I feel like cozy dark autumn nights is matching this book. I actually don't know too much about what happens in the book, the premise, nothing. I'm just gonna go in blind and just roll with it. But yeah, I've heard mixed reviews, but I am wanting to have my own opinion on it. The next book I have is Conversations on Love, and I have actually started this book, but it's one of those books a bit like Everything I Know About Love by Dolly Alderton. It's one of those books that you kind of take your time reading. It's one of those books that you probably underline and just, yeah, spend a bit of time with. So I didn't want to rush this one, and I'm kind of just going back to it every now and again, but I do definitely want to read it. I have liked it so far with the few pages that I have read. I got to page 14, so not very far, but I took my time, like I said, like underlining stuff. So I will go back to this at some point. I'm probably just going to dip in and out of it. Then we have Summer Reading by Jen McKinley, and again, this is a high contender for my summer holiday. There's lots of contenders, to be honest. I have heard quite good things about this. It just screams summer, and I feel like you cannot read it at any other time in the year. It just feels illegal to do so. So yeah, it's either going to be read on my summer holiday or probably throughout autumn slash the start of September, because I also have another holiday in September. So one of my holidays will have this book on, I feel. But yeah, heard good things, and like I say, I just was saving it for the summer months to read. Then we have Cleopatra and Frankenstein by Coco Mellors. This again feels more like an autumn time read, if not from just the title, but just the vibes the book is giving off. Again, mixed reviews on this book, but I kind of wanted to form my own opinion on it. The mixed reviews haven't put me off from reading this book, but I'm just saving it for more autumny time to read. I just feel like I would have a better reading experience if I read it in autumn. The next book I have is X's and O's by Amy Lee, or Amy Leah, however you say her name. I read Set on You. I did not enjoy that book. It gave me the ick. I'm not gonna lie. But the male main character reminded me of someone that I used to date, and that was just really icky for me. But this one, I feel like I can probably get over that, because he's not going to be the main character, and she is a book girly, and we actually met the main character in this book in the first one, and I really liked his character, so I feel like this one is a better contender and it's probably going to suit me more. Nothing to do with the writing, anything like that. It was purely the reminder of someone that I used to date that just gave me the ick, and I just feel like there's no coming back from that when you read a book. So I will be reading this one at some point. It's just not really high on my priority list. The next book I have, again, is a contender for one of my holidays. I don't know if to read this one on my September one, because I feel like it could be pushed more to the later months of the year, and that is 28 Summers by Ellen Hildebrand. By saying it can be pushed to the later months of the year, it's just Ellen is giving off autumn vibes. Don't know why. Not that I don't want to read this book, because I definitely do, and I've heard it's kind of like Every Summer After by Carly Fortune, and I've heard Ellen Hildebrand is just an amazing author, so I do really want to read this book. The next one I have is sports romance, and it is Breakaway by Grace Riley. It's actually a hockey romance. I might actually read this in August, because I'm planning to do a reading sports romance for a week vlog, because one of you guys actually suggested that to me, so thanks so much for the suggestion. Actually really liked that suggestion. It sounded really interesting, and I do have a couple of books on my August TBR, again you can see who picked them, that could fit that genre too. If you guys ever have any suggestions on any videos you want me to film, please drop them in the comments, and I will always look at them, look into them, or if you have any books or anything you want me to read, let me know. But yeah, so I think I might read that in August, because then I have another book ticked off my 24 for 2024, and it also fits my theme for the video, so it's a win-win. Next book I have, again, is giving autumn vibes, and that is The Secret History by Donna Tartt. I just feel like you cannot read this at any other point in the year apart from autumn, so I am saving it for then, and it seems like a pretty dense book. Again, I don't really know anything about this book. I am just going in blind, so yeah. I have heard like good things, like there's been positive talk about it, but I just don't know anything about it. But I am saving that for autumn, so I will read it at some point just later in the year. Then I'm gonna have to be brave to read this book. I'm gonna have to be brave. I haven't read it yet because I feel like I needed to be in a better mental space. I don't know if you're going to know what it is just from me saying that, but I have A Little Life to read. Now, I do actually want to read it this year. It is really chunky, but I am thinking more towards autumn or September kind of time. just because it's giving more autumn vibes. I know that shouldn't really determine when to read this book, but if I'm feeling in the right mental space, I am going to read it in autumn. I actually really thrive in autumn. It is one of my, well, it is my favourite season. I do love the warm weather in summer, but autumn is just, I like to be a cozy girly, and that is all the cozy vibes. I feel like my mental space is probably going to be best in that season, ready for me to read this, because it's going to be a heavy one. And I can just be a girly who sits inside and cries about this book. I don't need to go out and have plans. So yeah, towards the start of October, race season ends, so I will have more time to then dedicate to this book instead of like dipping in and out in between race weekends. I just want to commit time to this book because it's going to take me a while to read. And then the last book that is on my 24 for 2024 list is The Infinity Between Us, and I do think that this one is going to be coming away with me on my August holiday that I'm going on in a couple of weeks, because it's just giving same vibes as every summer after, and I just need a nice quick, it's quite quick, the words look quite big, a nice quick read to read on holiday. I'm just gonna hope it's warm because it's been raining here in the UK for like weeks, apart from today when it's been like 25 degrees. So random. But yeah, this is one of the ones that I've like most anticipated reading, but I just wanted the perfect time to read it, and I feel like my holiday is probably that time. So those are all the books that are actually on my 2024 list. But now I'm going to dive into other books that are on my physical TBR that I want to read. Like I said, I've kind of categorized them. Some are obviously going to overlap. So yeah, the first category I have is romance. So the first book we've got is Love and Gelato. Now I know this is a series, but I'm only committing to reading the first one this year, purely because I kind of want to take this book on my holiday. I have actually watched the film of this, but I normally don't read a book if I've watched the film of something, because it's kind of just like, I know what's going to happen. I feel like the book has to be read first and then the film can be watched. But I watched that film so long ago that I only have like rough recollections of it, so I feel like I could probably read this book and still have a good time. So I am going to read this one soon, hopefully, because it's just giving like summer vibes, and I just feel like now's the best time to read it. Then we have The Simple Wild. Now again, this is a series, but I'm only committing to reading the first one. I do have the second one as well, so it just depends how well it goes, whether I want to read the second one this year too. But again, I'm only committing to reading the first one for now. I want to read this in autumn. I just feel like it's giving more autumn vibes, and I've heard it's more literary fiction and then added elements of romance, which again, I just prefer that in autumn. Like, summer is the time to be reading my rom-commy books, autumn is the deeper thought process books for me, if that made any sense at all. But yeah, I do want to read it just a bit later in the year. Then we've got Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. I'm thinking about reading this at some point over the next coming months. Again, it's more of a rom-commy book, so I am feeling that this should probably be read in the summer months. I've been meaning to get to this. People keep commenting, you guys keep commenting and saying, please read that book, like, and you keep messaging me on my TikTok and saying, I can't believe you haven't read it. So I am going to read it at some point, just finding the time. Then the next one is a sad one, and I think again I'm going to save this for more autumn time, and that is If He Had Been With Me. I just really want to get to this book this year and kind of see what all the hype is about and determine if I want to read the next one or not. But yeah, I have heard good things about it, but it is very sad apparently. So yeah, I do want to read it, but again, autumny months and we can be sad girl autumn. The next book I have is also meant to be very sad and that is A Thousand Boy Kisses by Tilly Cole. I have been really wanting to get to this book too, just to be honest, I refused to buy it at full price because of the cover. Sorry Tilly Cole, don't hate me, but yeah, I just don't like the cover, so I actually ended up buying it on Vinted in the end for a cheaper price. It's not really giving me any vibe of any season, so I'm just gonna read it when I feel like it. Then we have Love and Other Words. Why can't I speak? Love and Other Words by Christina Lauren, who I recently found out is 2 authors, so thank you to the bestie who told me that in my comments. Heard such good things about it. Again, I think it's maybe potentially sad, I don't know, but I am feeling this is probably an end of summer going into September read, but I do want to read it very soon because it's a highly anticipated read for me. The next category is like series that I want to finish slash start slash read. There are also some in another category, but I wanted to keep them in a separate category. But these are like kind of romancy series. So the first one is the Dreamland Billionaire series. Now, I read the first book. I didn't like it. So I was like, oh, I'm not sure whether to carry on. But people have said the other two are a lot better, especially the last one. So I do want to get to these. I just don't know when I'm going to get to them. But I do want to get to them at some point this year and kind of wrap up that series. And then I can solely focus on Lauren's new series and some of her backlog. So yeah, I do want to read it at some point, just not sure when. Then I want to read Hopeless so I can wrap up the Chestnut Spring series. I've recently read Reckless, loved it so much, literally infinity stars for me. I'm not desperate to get to Beau's story, don't hate me, but yeah, I'm not desperate to read this one, but I do want to kind of wrap up that series this year, so I have one less series to worry about reading next year. Then the next one is going to be a hefty read, and it's building in me more and more to want to read it. I am worried and stressed, and yeah, but I'm gonna read it, and that is Magnolia Park's Into the Dark. Now, my friend has just read this book and I want to talk to her about it. I want to tell her all the things that I need to tell her, and I want her to be able to talk to me about it, so I need to read it quite soon. But it is a hefty book, and with the ending of The Long Way Home, I literally am about to start crying. I'm not quite sure that I can manage that right now, but we will read it at some point this year because I really do want to read it and be on top of the Magnolia Park series and just dive back into the world because they are my favourite characters ever. And the last series that I kind of want to read, I don't know whether I'm going to finish it. I would like to, but it's ambitious. It's ambitious to want to finish this series considering I haven't read a single book in it, and that is the Boys of Tommen series. Now, I definitely want to start the first one. Really want to read it very soon. I just don't know when that's going to happen, and it's very ambitious to try and read them all, but I'm nothing if not ambitious. The next category we have is like mystery thrillers slash cozy mysteries slash autumny books. I can't think of what category to put all of these in, but there's only a couple. So the first one is the Good Girls or A Good Girl's Guide to Murder series, at least the first two, because I have both of those on my physical TV at the moment. I don't have the third one yet, but yeah, I at least want to start this series, if not read both books that I currently have. Again, I've heard great things. Just feel like maybe now I should just save it for autumn. I feel like that's the time to read it because I've got so many other books that I need to get to, that I want to get to. And I do desperately want to get to this book, but I just, yeah, feel like the other ones are probably going to take priority. So I do really want to read these, but I feel like they are probably going to be safe for like autumn now. And the last one in this category, I said it was a very short category, is Assistant to the Villain. I have heard great things. I've heard it's quite funny, and I don't know if this is a mystery or thriller or what. It's not a thriller, but I don't know if it's a mystery or whatever, but I'm putting it in my autumny category because... oh, well, just because it says the word villain, to be honest. I don't have any other thought process behind that. Yeah. But anyway, I really want to read this. I've heard it's really funny, and Ellen Catherine said it was really funny, and there's a frog in the book, and I love frogs, so that sold me on it. That sold me on it. And the next category I have is kind of like other literature slash non-fiction. It's a very loose category. So we have Dear Dolly by Dolly Alderton. Again, this is kind of in the same category as like Conversations on Love, just one of those ones that you take a bit slower. Probably going to be a bit of like a palate cleanser, slower book between like romances or heavy fantasies or whatever throughout the rest of the year. But yeah, I really do want to get to this one before the end of the year, and then I can kind of read some of her other books next year. And the other one that I have, I don't know if I'm going to end up finishing the whole series. I would like to, but again, it's quite ambitious with the amount of books I have to read, and that is Beartown. So I definitely want to start this one, and again, this one is in my August TBR, so if you want to see that video, keep your eyes peeled on my channel because it's coming very, very soon, and you get to see who picked all my books for that month. It was very fun, very, very fun having other people pick my reads and just kind of grasp what I would want to read. So yeah, excited to read this one. Again, I don't know if I'm going to get to the whole series, but at least read the first book because I'm desperate to read this book, like so wanting to read it. And the last category we have is fantasy. I'm such a fantasy girly now, but anyway, there are some series, there are some standalones, and we are ambitious again. I'm never gonna read all these books before the end of the year, but a girl can hope. A girl can hope. So I want to read the Once Upon a Broken Heart series. However, I have yet to read the Caraval series, so I need to read the whole of the Caraval series and then I can read the Once Upon a Broken Heart series. So isn't that fun? I need to read both series before the end of the year. Well, I don't need to, but I would like to. I do feel like it's going to be so much fantasy in autumn and winter time and I'm here for it, but I'm just in the mood for fantasy right now all the time. So yeah, I want to read both of the series. I've heard great things, but I do want to read Caraval first. I watched Bridie's vlog the other day where she was reading it and she said she had a better reading experience with reading Caraval first because things just made more sense. And I want to finish off the ACOTAR series. So I've read the first 2 books and I desperately want to get to these books because I want to finish this series so bad, but I'm too scared. I'm scared of the last book. I'm scared it's going to put me in a slump because I'm not a fan of Nesta. She might have a redemption arc, but who knows. So far, I don't like her. But we'll see where we get to. I'm hoping to read all of them before the end of the year, but we will see because next year I kind of want to focus on Throne of Glass. Big statement, but I do. Then the next book I have to read is The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. I'm not committing to reading the whole series, but just the first one. I have no idea what it's about. I just know it's fancy and it has been sitting on my TBR, my physical TBR, for the longest time because BookTok sold it to me. I bought it and a couple of years ago I was not a fantasy girly and I read something about a tale and I was like, I'm not reading that. And now I'm a fantasy girly and I'm like, I will read that. So yeah, I'm going to read this soon. Then I have Six of Crows, which I really want to read. I've heard great things. I've recently got this actually. I did a mini book haul in my most recent reading vlog. And yeah, bestie Sarah Caroli has said great things about this duology. So I'm not committing again to reading the duology. I just at least want to start it. I feel like I need to do a reading journal next year to kind of keep track of all the series that I'm in the middle of because there is a freaking lot. But yeah, I do want to read this one again. I feel like this is going to be an autumny fantasy read. And the last book, can you believe it? The last one to read, not in this order, but just the last book we're going to talk about is Fourth Wing because I still have yet to read this book and now this is the second one. I've heard great things. One of my friends loved this book. She was like, Bestie, you need to read it. I've told her to read Powerless. She's told me to read Fourth Wing. I'm very excited to read this one. All I know about it is there's dragons. That's all I know. I don't want to know anything else. I'm going to go into it blind, as I do with most fantasies and most books, to be honest. Yeah, I just know there's dragons. That's all I know. But I'm very excited because we love dragons. But those are actually all the books that we're going to talk through in this video. Ambitious? Definitely. I don't know how many books we've just been through, but it's gonna be a lot. It's gonna be a lot. Shall I count? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 42 books. 42 books. Not counting new releases to come out. It's doable. It is doable because I've read 46 and we're now like just past the middle of the year. So it's doable. Will it be done? Who knows? Check back in at the end of the year to see. But yeah, Let me know if any of these are on your priority list for the rest of the year, and if you've read any of them and you think I should bump some of them up the priority list, let me know too. I feel like my main ones are probably like ACOTAR, Boys of Tommen series, pretty much any fantasy because I'm so in the mood for that at the moment, and Magnolia Parks. I feel like they're my main ones to read that I'm really looking forward to, and will cry if I don't read them before the end of the year. Let me know, like I said, if any of these are on your list to read before the end of the year, or just if you're planning to read them soon or anything like that. Let me know, or if they're not, let me know what is on your priority list, because I could add it to my list for next year. Thank you so much for watching today's video and listening to me ramble about books for so long, and I'm sure I'll see you in another one super soon.